I'm retired Brigadier General Mike Newton from the Air Force. Since I retired from the Air Force, I've been working for LSI, Logistics Specialties Incorporated. And in that role, we are a consultant company to PTAC. And I'll get to that a little bit more in just a minute. I had a couple of announcements. Okay, I wanted you all to know that if you're registered for this and we have your email address, we're going to be emailing the charts that you're going to see today to you. Okay? And also, there's a really good handout that Dugway has worked hard on that has a lot of good links in it on how to do business with the government. And we're going to email that to you also so that you can click on those links. So, you don't have to take copious notes. Okay, this is all going to come to you. If you are walked in or something, we don't have your email address, please see the gals out at the table. Okay. Okay, I've talked to Jim, who I will introduce in a minute, and questions are okay during the presentation, but I will point out that there's a lot of material to cover, and there is going to be a Q&A session at the end, as well as like one-on-one meetings if you want to come down and talk to them. So keep that in mind. And I think we are planning a break just before we get to there's a part of, when Jim fills up his agenda, you'll see that there's a Fed Biz portion of his presentation today. And I think just before that, we're going to take a short break. And oh, by the way, I didn't know that until just a few minutes ago, but the Fed Bid presenters flew all the way out here from Washington, D.C. So, okay, and so we'll have that break, but if you need to walk out before then, the restrooms are just out down the hall to the right, and they're right there on the corner, okay? So, back to our partnership with PTAC. We are very proud to be associated with the Utah PTAC. We've observed PTAC across the country. Most states have one, and we're really proud to be associated with ours because we feel it's one of the very, very best. And it's been a great partnership with great results. And so we would not start one of our outreach events without a welcome from our partner. And so today we have the Deputy Director of the Utah PTAC, Mr. Chuck Spence, to give you a welcome. Chuck?
Let's see. Get wired up here. Mike, thank you for that kind introduction. And we'd like to welcome our PTAC clients here with us this morning. Thank you for taking a couple of hours out of your busy schedules. We think this is going to be well worth your time. And I'll get into more detail here in just a minute about that. You know, in government procurement, we often hear language to the effect that, hey, if you see a solicitation for the first time on federal business opportunities, it's probably too late. That may or may not be accurate. But today, you get to hear a great opportunity. You get to hear from people like Jim Cage, Paul, and Don and Ken from Dugway and some other representatives about some real opportunities at Dugway. Forecasted opportunities. You know, we're going to be looking at forecasted opportunities that are available to you, the small businesses, in terms of months, maybe a few years out. Real opportunities for you to do business with Dugway. They're going to teach you how to do that. So this is a real opportunity. This is a tangible, identified need that Dugway is going to identify for you today for you to take advantage of. So we think being here is going to be well worth your time. PTAC has had a long-standing relationship with Dugway. About 11 years ago, one of their former commanders, Gary Carter, he not the director of PTAC, I think he was over one of the programs that he had under his charge was the PTAC program. So we got to know Gary Harder very well. And not only Gary, but then we got to learn and work closely with people like Liz Reed and Eric Vogt. Before Liz retired, and I think Eric moved on to, I think, Nebraska, as I understand. Is that right? So we've had a good relationship with them. Now, PTAC has a great opportunity to hear and make that relationship and maintain a good relationship with Jim and Paul and others at Dugway. They've always been very loyal to PTAC, very participative. They've always come to our symposiums. They've come, made that long drive to, what is that drive, Jim? About an hour and a half, 2 hours from Dugway to here?
An hour and a half.
About an hour and a half to speak to you this morning. So we're grateful. And Paul and Jim and Don and Ken, thank you for coming here today. And then, as Mike mentioned, we've got FedBid with us all the way from Washington, D.C. They'll talk about what FedBid is, and that's important for you to know if you want to be a contract officer, because agencies use FedBid, a reverse auction, which they'll explain in more detail about. But that is important because that's a tool that the government agencies use. So as you listen to their presentation today, and as you see an RFQ or RFP at Dugway, this might be in the future, or really any other agency for that matter, we want you to come and talk to the members of the PTAC team about that, because that's what we're here. You know, we do one thing and we do one thing only. We try to do it well, and that's government procurement. And we are a government agency. We are PTACs, of which there are 98 PTACs throughout the country, including D.C., Guam, Puerto Rico, some are state agencies, some are regional programs, but 98 of them. And in Utah, we are a statewide program. We have offices from Logan, Utah, clear down to the other corner of St. George. And all we do is we're here as a resource to help you, the small businesses, with your government contracting needs. Because you shouldn't have to be government contracting experts. We try to fill that role for you. And so we want to help you in any way we can with that. So with that, let me introduce our PTAC team. We have sort of you might say, kind of a dual effort now. The legislature has graciously helped us over the last many years and let us contract with the private sector company, LSI. So we have joined forces, and our brand now is the Utah PTAC team. And we're pleased to work with LSI in providing these resources to you. So let me introduce those if I might. We have with us, I think up front, Fred, if you'll stand up, Mr. Fred Lang, who's the director of the PTAC program. Mr. Johnny Williamson, raise your hand, Johnny. Johnny is one of our regional directors. Johnny, office is right here on the campus, just about a building or two down that way, and we'll turn around. And Johnny's a regional manager that covers sort of the South Salt Lake Valley, the one about Murray South, including West Valley City. So if you're a company and you're from that area, go talk to Johnny during right after the remarks from Dugway. A little farther south, we have Mr. Steve Lyon. Steve, raise your hand. Steve covers Utah County, Carbon, Grant County, Juab, and a few more rural areas. Central Utah. So if you're from that area, we want you to talk to Steve Lyon. Again, I'm Chuck Spence, Deputy Director of the program, and I cover kind of the central Salt Lake area to about Murray, Utah. So if you're in that area, come speak with me. A little farther north, we have Alex Gracensaki. Alex, would you stand up? Alex covers Davis, Weber, and Morgan County. So if you're from there, we want you to speak to Alex. So thank you. Before I turn some time back to Mike or Doug, I'm not sure who's going to make the introductions to your teams. They're going to be you, Mike, to talk about the LSI side. I'm going to talk a little bit about our relationship with LSI. So they are part of the Utah We want to encourage all of you after this event is over to speak to someone from your PTAC team. We'll help you with whatever phase you might be in. If you need registration, if you need help understanding our regulations, if you need help finding bid opportunities, or how to propose on an RFP or an RFQ, we will help you with all of that. So pay attention to what Dugway has to say. We're going to talk about forecasted opportunities, real opportunities, tangible opportunities for you, and then speak to members of the PTAC team afterwards. All right, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Chuck. The LSI team, real quick. Our program manager, Doug Fridley. Doug, raise your hand. Okay, and Paula Kramer is one of our consultants. Paula, raise your hand. Kylie and Forrest are both with LSI, and then Lori out at the table. Okay, and I want to recognize Marianne Flinders from the Hill Air Force Base Small Business Office. So in case on a break or afterwards you need to talk to her or any of the folks from LSI or PTAC that you were just introduced to. Okay, so let's get going. It's my honor to introduce Mr. Jim Keach. And Jim and I had a conversation this morning already. He's going to be introducing several people that will talk from the Dugway side. And so we've already agreed that we're going to make these introductions real short and sweet. Okay? We've actually heard that from you on your evaluations before, I might add. But so we're not, I just want everybody to know today that we're not slighting anybody. You've all got great resumes. Just in the interest of time, we're going to make them short and sweet, okay? So, Jim is the Director of Contracting for the Mission and Installation Contracting Command, MIC. You'll hear that term today, okay? Jim has worked for the government in contracting at Dugway for approximately 14 years, the last 2 of which has been as the director. And before that, he spent some more years at Dugway also, working for 15 years for Lockheed Martin Corporation's Contract Support Services out there at Dugway. So he's got a Bachelor of Science degree from the University of Utah. Tomorrow, big game, okay? Utah. And so we're proud to have Jim here, and with no further ado, I'm going to turn it over. Help me welcome Jim Keach, please.
Well, good morning, everybody. We know that being here was a conscientious choice you made. You could have been many other places. Your business depends on that. And with that, we want to respect that time that you've given us today. You know that we've scheduled till about 1. It's probably honestly not going to go that long, but we want to give enough time that if there is a need for one-on-one, if you want to ask questions to Paul or myself or any of the other individuals here representing PTAC or LSI, certainly that'll give us that opportunity. As an installation, we also rely on the senior leadership of our installation. MIC is there as a supporting organization for Dugway Proving Ground. We provide the majority of the contracting support for the installation, and our customers are the ones who define those requirements for us. And before we go too far, I do want to introduce, it actually says Colonel Kirshner up there. Unfortunately, he was not able to attend, but I do have the privilege and opportunity to introduce Dr. Kenneth Gritton to you. He is the Technical Director at Dugway Proving Ground. He previously assigned include the Director of the West Desert Test Center, Deputy Director of the West Desert Test Center, and divisional assignments in the offices of Department Undersecretary of the Army. During his career, he's worked in numerous areas of chemical and mineral processing. He is the author of numerous refereed and invited publications on topics to include experimental design, waste treatment, and waste stabilization. He has a Bachelor of Science in Chemical Engineering from the University of Utah. Again, go Utes. But I'd like to turn a few minutes over to Dr. Gritton for some comments regarding the Army Test and Evaluation Command. Dr. Gritton.
Hey, good morning. I know you're not here to hear me because there's a lot of business to be done, and we invite you to bring your business to the table. I do bring you the regards and compliments of Colonel Sean Kirshner, who was not able to be here today. I'm Ken, so just remember Ken the redhead, and you'll be able to find me at Dugway, and I serve as the technical director and the deputy commander out there. Let me tell you what our mission is. Dugway is the nation's test facility for testing chemical and biological defensive measures for our warfighters, for our first responders, civil supports teams, as well as our elite operators who operate in the field. So if there's anything chemical or biologically related or a chemical or biological threat, the defense against that or the way to mitigate that or neutralize that threat gets tested at Dugway, and that's what we do. And so we have a lot of diverse needs. We're talking about, true story, a few years ago, you watch Biz Ops, we buy a lot of different stuff. We'll buy anything from nuts and bolts to highly specialized scientific equipment in the $1 million range. Anything that you could imagine that would be used in a laboratory setting or to replicate a threat in the theater of war, we probably buy it and use it. And some years ago we had an opportunity that hit the Fed Biz Ops. And it was a really strange and unique opportunity, and the next day our commander and his deputy at the time were on their way to brief the Senate Armed Services Committee on why in the world are you buying that? So watch Fed Biz Ops, because there'll be some interesting things, and not just the things that you expect, but just about anything that you could imagine. And I know that you have great services and products to bring to the table, and Mr. Keach is going to make it easy to do business with us because we need your support. We need your support to make sure that America and her allies come home safe every time. If there's a chemical or a biological threat, we don't want that to harm our sons and daughters, our brothers and sisters. So thank you for being here. Let's take some time and make sure that we can do business together and make it easy to do business. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Ken. As I mentioned, Ken represents the test support element of Dugway Proving Ground. ATEC is our mission, but Dugway is more than that. We have a community 80 miles out into the West Desert that is self-sufficient, self-sustaining, and that is driven by the Installation Management Command. And I'd like to now introduce, for a few minutes, Mr. Don Smith, who is the Garrison Manager for Dugway Proving Ground. Mr. Smith served in the United States Army for over 25 years as both an enlisted man and officer. During his military career with the U.S. Army, he served in both command and staff positions for ever-increasing authority, culminating in his assignment as Provost Marshal and, can't even pronounce that word, in Germany. What is the name of that city?
Würzburg?
Kirchzig? K-I-T-Z-E-N?
Kitchigan.
Kitchigan. Sorry.
It sounds. Kitchigan.
Yeah.
Well, no wonder you can't pronounce it. No one else can either.
I know. It's German. Anyway, thank you, Don. Mr. Smith earned his bachelor's degree in administration of justice from Wichita State University, Kansas. He entered the civil service in May of 1999 and served as the Provost Marshal officer until 2000. And I'd like to introduce Mr. Smith, Garrison Manager, Dugway Proving Ground.
Okay, so I don't do police work anymore, but as a garrison manager, it's really the city manager, a county commissioner. It's a small city out here. Although we're a gated community, we got guards out there, but all the same construction things that a city does, we do the same thing. I spend millions of dollars every year from plumbing, insulation, electrical. What are we doing now? Floors, cabinets, storage sheds. I mean, there's all kinds of things. If you look at the announcement, so it's I see lots of potential here for us, and so it's I think you guys, you want to do the business, but I need you. So I got all this work that's got to be done because I don't have the work crews to do all that. So that's why I'm spending millions of dollars. And so there's all sorts of categories of construction things that you'll see, from major construction, minor construction. One will be coming up. I don't know if everybody will get to be on it. I got to demolish 110 houses, so that's coming up in the future. So I'm glad there's so much interest here. I like it when more contractors or business folks are interested in this, because I need you for all that. And then so if you got the sharp pencils, I mean, the potential's there. There's lots of work. The question is the work is going to be done, so who does it? So there's no reason there couldn't be somebody in this room. So thanks for coming and finding out how to do all this stuff. And the MIC team, they can make sure you know how to do that, and the Fed biz, especially them, because we need your business. And I need to spend my money.
So one last introduction. As the Mission Installation Contract Command, the emphasis on construction, particularly the partnershiping with small business, is driven from the top down. And I'd like to read a brief introduction from our commander, Brigadier General Jeffrey A. Gabbard. On behalf of the Mission Installation Contracting Command, Brigadier General Jeffrey A. Gabbard, and the more than 1,200 soldiers and civilians comprising the MIC family, it is a pleasure to welcome you to the MIC Dugway Open House. We are committed to building a ready, transparent, and accountable organization that is built on trust and respect, and this open house is a big part of that commitment. MIC stands committed to ensuring the promotion of early exchange of information about future acquisitions. An early exchange of information among industry and the program manager, contracting officer, and other participants in the acquisition process can identify and resolve concerns regarding the proposed acquisition and remedy any other industry concerns or questions. We want to talk to you and hear from you. We want to ensure that we hear. Sorry, let me start back there. And we want to ensure that you hear from us as early as possible in the acquisition life cycle. That exchange is what this open house is all about. So just real quickly, I don't want to go into a lot of detail. We come from the Army Contracting Command, through Army Material Command to Mission Installation Contracting Command. As you see, the Army through MIC is represented throughout the world and throughout the United States. As you can see, Dugway Proving Ground falls under the 418th Contract Support Brigade at Fort Hood, who reports to General Gabbard. So who are we and what do we do? As we mentioned, we have the mission side, we have the installation side. In 2015, we did over 572 contract actions. Not necessarily significant in comparison to other larger installations, but certainly significant to our leadership at Dugway Proving Ground. Of that, there was over 63 million in contractual obligations. There were over 5,600 government purchase card transactions, culminating in over $5 million in obligations. There were over 380 small business contract actions, which should pique your interest and curiosity. And of that, that included $39 million in small business purchases. So as you see, we do a lot of small business acquisition at Dugway. The question you have is, how do I get there? What do I do to break that gate that Mr. Smith mentioned? We're not here today to give you the silver bullet or the magical answer necessarily. We're here to give you the tools that will help you understand what we do. We'd love the opportunity to interface one-on-one, the symposium that Chuck mentioned, a great way to interface. But at times we cannot go 1v1 to a contractor with a particular need when we know there are many out there that can offer the same thing. So through what we have to offer today, we're going to show you some tools, some avenues to get you to the point that you can find your way in. Again, we're not saying that we don't want the calls, but realize that we're going to rely on FedBid and other vehicles that you're going to see presented to you today to help you understand how to bust into that opportunity. Not only at Dugway Proving Ground, but across the nation and even perhaps around the world, depending on what you're looking for. So small business is is critical to our performance in the installation and the Army as a whole. Small business plays a critical role in the support of the U.S. Army mission and the overall strength of the U.S. industry. We know that small business is the backbone of U.S. industry. We reach out. The organization, the installation has small business goals, and we are driven by those, sometimes to the dismay and frustration of Dugway senior leadership, but we are committed as an organization, as a command, to the small business entities around the world, around the states, and particularly in our area here. So give you a little bit of idea of what we did last year to give you some ideas of where we're at and maybe how you fit into this mix, where you might see those opportunities to find a way into Dugway. So, as you know, our small business goals are committed to 8A certified, service disabled veteran owned, women owned, and hub zone contractors. As you can see in the chart off to the right, in this area here, the number of actions we completed in 2015 and the dollar amounts. So there is significant opportunities from everything from your 8A certified to your women owned and certainly our hub zone. As it mentions up here, we have no set-asides for small disadvantaged set-asides for small disadvantaged business or veteran-owned small businesses, but you can see again down below, there has been a significant amount of action towards those entities as well. Looking at our major customers at Dugway, I mentioned the Army Test and Evaluation Command. As you can see, by dollar amount and quantities of items and actions acquired, they are certainly our largest customer at Dugway Proving Ground. A lot of what Dr. Gritton mentioned as far as test requirements, unique requirements, expediency of acquiring those items are key and essential to Dugway's mission. Dugway is one of 6 Department of Army MRTFB, which stands for
Major Range and Test Facility Base.
Major Range and Test Facility Base across the country. And with that, a lot of work comes to Dugway. And as you see by the numbers represented above, there is a lot of work that goes to ATEC. Installation Contractor Command, Mr. Smith's organization. Again, significant amount of efforts that go towards sustaining the installation, improvements, construction, renovation, demolition. Everything that is needed is obtained through, most part, through our office for their operation. And of course, not to be forgotten, our IT world at Dugway, we do also support them to a degree. So looking at the top 5 federal supply codes that were purchased against last year. Now keep in mind, this is not everyone. This is just the top 5. Number 1 was instrument and laboratory equipment. There's a lot of unique requirements that Dugway has set. A lot of testing that goes on. A lot of real world scenarios that are being evaluated, and equipment is necessary. Number 2 is ADP equipment, software, supplies, and equipment. Number 3, telephone, radio, video reproduction, and miscellaneous communication equipment. Number 4, photographic equipment. And number 5, chemicals and chemical products. And again, this only represents the top 5. Keep in mind that wherever you fall in the federal supply code, we are more than likely acquiring what you have, and there are opportunities for you there. Looking at the product service codes for last year, number 1 was obviously research and development, knowing what Dugway does and what we're needed to do. Certainly number 1 falls in research and development. But also, number 2, operation of government-owned facilities. Number 3, automated data processes and telecommunication. Number 4, natural resources and conservation. And number 5, special studies, analysis, chemical, biological. To follow that chemical and biological test mission at Dugway Proving Ground. Looking at the NAICS codes, again, hopefully these are familiar terms for each one of you. If not, let us know. Get with PTAC, get it with LSI. Certainly these should be things that you're familiar with. But the top 5 NAICS codes that we purchased with last year. Number 1 is professional, scientific, and technical services at over $27 million. Number 2, administrative and support and waste management, remedial services. As you can imagine, there's a lot that goes on at Dugway and a lot of need for waste management. Number 3, manufacturing. Number 4, construction. Number 5, computer office machines and other electronic. I will mention construction. There is a lot of construction that goes on at Dugway. Our office has been hampered and challenged because of cutbacks on staffing, and a lot of stuff has been going to the Corps of Engineers. If you are in construction, get with the Corps. Look for those opportunities to partner. There is a lot going on. We have done some through our office, but I'll be honest, the construction has been hampered, and we are looking to assist and facilitate in outsourcing that information and those services. So there's still opportunities at Dugway. It may not come from our office, but as I said before, we want to give you those tools, those avenues to find to get to where you're going to find that business opportunity at Dugway Proving Ground. All right, that's enough of the history. What I want to do is I'm going to turn the time over to Mr. Paul Fraley. He's my deputy. And I'll tell you, I trust Paul and I rely on him heavily for a lot. Paul was assigned as our deputy in November of 2014. He's been in the office since 2007, and he and I are both still learning. There's still mysteries associated with government contracting, just as each one of you experience. But there's opportunities that he will share with you. Some of these will be our major contracting opportunities, and you may look at these and go, I'm not in that area. Why is this being presented to me? But Paul will be able to give you some information that will tell you where there may be subcontracting opportunities. Information that will be shared in the brochure, the packet that I believe it was Mike that mentioned, this doing business with Mick. This will be produced electronically and submitted to each one of you. And it does have information. It has links. It has information that will tell you who's out there, what we need to do. Also in here, you'll find references on page, once you get this, page 13, that gives you actual contact information to our major contractors at Dugway Proving Ground right now. Jacobs Technology, who's our field and test support. I have the program manager's telephone number and email address. They are doing procurement for us. I have the name and address for the program manager for our base operations support contract, C. Martin, at the moment. Again, many opportunities of small business subcontracting opportunities. I also have the information for our custodial support. Now, again, it's a very small company, maybe some opportunities for materials, if that is where your niche falls. And the last one you'll find down here is our test documentation support contract. Again, a small business, but they do look for small contracting opportunities. But we appreciate you being here. We know that this is going to be a great opportunity to market and to venture into relationships with your organizations. We know it's not easy. I know it gets frustrating when you look at government contracting and say, how do I get there? Paul's going to give you some information that's going to show you some of our major acquisitions coming up and maybe some partnering opportunities there, and then he'll go a little more in detail into what you do to get there from here. So I'd like to turn the time over to Paul.
Thanks, Jim. I'm Paul Fraley, Deputy Director at Dugway Proving Ground Contracting Office. Deputy Director sounds kind of like a spot somewhere up towards the top. What I probably spend 95% of my time doing is contracting officer work. I am the contracting officer for all of the pre-award actions and some administrative actions at Dugway Proving Grounds. So I have a constant stream of requirements that come across my desk every day, all day, right now probably, that we're trying to buy supplies and services for. So what I want to spend my time talking about this morning is how our office works in the procurement and acquisition process, that may hopefully be a little more understandable than reading the FAR or detailed manuals on how contracting offices work. So as Jim said, we're going to talk about some of the upcoming opportunities that we have, and also our day-to-day activities that our specialists in our office receive from our customers, and how we work this, and how you as contractors can get involved with what we do at Dugway. Data Sciences Support Services is a contract that we currently have right now, and it ends August 2017. It is programming services, database services, help desk services, automation support for the test center out west. And it is about I think it's slated to be about a $15 million contract over a 5-year period. We are working this contract through our Fort Hood location at MIC. So in the past, we've done those contracts locally, but we have specialists that are working out of our MIC headquarters office or our MIC Fort Hood office that are going to be putting those contracts together, solicitations, etc. I don't think Jim talked about that, but we have something our office has been going through as we downsize is we are utilizing other locations and other contracting offices to help do our contracts. In the world of automation, when we migrate a requirement like this, it's like the specialists are working on it or down the hallway. So we work with them, we provide them information and help with the solicitation, the proposals, market research, etc., until we get to a point of award, and then we'll continue with the administration of those contracts at Dugway. So if I was to talk about a different location doing the contract, that's what I'm talking about. So this slide talks about data sciences, and total contract value says $1.2 million, but it's going to be closer to $15 million over a 5-year period. And once again, that requirement, we give the contracting or the contractor community warning about these requirements when they come out. Not only am I telling everybody here, but the first stages of these requirements will be advertised on Federal Business Opportunities in a format known as the sources sought, where it's a very brief description of the general scope, and we are seeking information from vendors who may be interested. So if I mention sources sought, it's informal, it's not binding, it's basically a shout out, hey, who's interested in this, get us your information, and then we keep a database for possible suggested sources. Base Operations Support Services, currently that is with the C. Martin Company, and that is hopefully close to being awarded or for the next 5-year period. We keep saying that every 6 months.
We anticipate the solicitation to come out sometime in May, June timeframe.
So Jim just reminded me hopefully the solicitation for this requirement is going to come out May or June, and obviously that'll be on Federal Biz Opportunities. And as Jim mentioned earlier, we will provide lists of the major support contracts as far as their program managers, the contracting people. You can get their information, and there's a lot of opportunity for subcontracting, like Jim said, maybe selling materials or different services. And like Don mentioned, we're a city out there at Dugway, Gated community, I haven't heard that one. That's really funny. So everything you can possibly imagine with the small municipal town, we do out there. So, and that's what the base support's all about. And a little bit more information about that. As our office and the government is working to put these larger contracts together and push work out to small businesses and multiple contractors, we may expect more smaller construction contracts to come out of the base operations, under the base operations umbrella, into single actions or other maybe multiple award, task order type contracts for, or job order contracts for smaller contracting requirements or construction requirements. Moving on here. Horizontal construction is kind of a fancy name for paving. Everything you can think of to do with paving: concrete, asphalt, curb gutters, fencing. All that type of work. That contract, let's see, estimated start dates is July of 2017. That's estimated. I don't know if we'll come close to that date, but current contract expires this summer, and we'll be looking for replacing that contract with the new one. And that one is being awarded by our Joint Base Lewis McCord Contracting Office, JBLM. And once again, that contract will be advertised on FedBizOps. I'm sure sources saw it will be forthcoming. C4IM support is, as you can see, help desk, telephone switch. It's basically our IT help contract. And follow-on contract for that is going to be done by the Network Enterprise Center of Excellence out of Fort Huachuca. Environmental chambers. We get into the next few slides. You'll see requirements for lab equipment. This is an environmental chamber. Dr. Gritton works in our ATEC, or our West Desert Test Center, which has a lot of interesting equipment out there. Lab equipment, air handling equipment. I mean, it could go on. It's quite the industrial area down there. Glove box did. We do a lot of manufacturing of equipment. A glove box is you've seen them on TV and stuff or movies where it's a big, maybe it's a plexiglass or a glass or stainless steel thing with the holes in them. You put your hands in them with the gloves that are already in them. Glove box. And we get a lot of interest, like at the PTAC symposiums, from machining companies and fabrication places. And putting these glove boxes together is exactly that. Whether it's a glove box as big as this desk or half the size of this room, we do have opportunities for that, and those requirements are posted on Federal BizOps. Typically, the small one, like this one, may be on a Fed bid, depending on how extensive the requirement is. But once again, we have lots of interest for machining companies that want to do business at Dugway, and these are the type of requirements that you can get started out there. Okay, environmental chamber, vibration system. Without getting into too much detail about environmental chambers and vibration systems, as a test center, we have some folks out there that take equipment, vehicles, whatever, shake it, bake it, cook it, blow dust on it, spray whatever on it, and test it out. And requirements like this may be upwards of $500,000 or $1 million. And once again, those will be posted, federal business opportunities. Let's see. Job order contract for construction requirements. Definitely in the pre-planning phase of something like this. We don't know whether we would do it locally. Most likely it would be done through joint base Lewis McChord. The magnitude of that requirement we're not sure of. Jim, how much do you? What was the last one?
Well, this is a new requirement. Many may know we had a multiple award task order contract at Dugway that expired about a year ago. And working with Mr. Smith, he's certainly interested in a job order contract that allows us the versatility and the ability to quickly go out and get certain skill sets off that job order. We're again working with our JBLM office to identify the conduit, the P2B reps, the performance work statement associated with that. Right now, our Garrison customer does have that, a copy of one they're looking at, and as soon as we can get that approved and validated, we're going to certainly engage with JBLM. It's an urgent requirement at Dugway, and we're trying to expedite it as quickly as we can.
Thanks. All right, so I want to keep this part of the discussion fairly general. This talks about doing business with Dugway. We'll talk about some dollar thresholds here. Our office at Dugway will buy, like I said earlier, supplies and services. There's a threshold there of $3,500, and the reason we put that up there is we have many people out of Dugway that have government purchase cards, credit cards, and they can buy supplies up to $3,500 without coming through our office. And those folks are located throughout Dugway. They buy supplies and services if they're under $2,500. So small maintenance jobs that pop up, they'll buy those directly from vendors. Above those thresholds, we get in the form of a purchase request. We call them requirements. Majority of our IT hardware we buy through Army Chess. We'll get that and talk about that in a second here. All right. It talks about the threshold of $150,000 being competed and placed on reverse auction website. I'm not going to steal too much of the FedBid ladies' thunder here, but we are required to do certain things when we buy goods or services. If we buy something that's over that $25,000 threshold, we have to post it everywhere for everybody to see. And that's we call that synopsizing. And whether we're posting it on FedBid or directly to FBO, it all winds up on FBO, because there's a button we click in FedBid that if it's over $25,000 and we have to synopsize it, it goes over to FBO. So you can see what we're up to, and you can see what we're buying, services, supplies, and a lot of good information there.
Hey, Paul?
Yeah.
Can you go back to that chart for just a second? I just want to do a foot and stomp here. This last MIC acquisition plan link here, if you go to that, you'll come to another chart that says View Plan that you click on, and then it's going to open at the bottom of your screen something you can click on. Okay, we're highlighting today the Dugway Proving Ground acquisition plan, but Here, you have those same act plans for like 30 to 35 Army bases. Okay, so we've always tried to teach the PTAC clients, don't just look within your state, but look beyond if you have that capability. So please take advantage of that and check that out when you get these charts. There's a lot of good information, tells you what base, you know, what's the requirement, same kind of information you're getting today.
So this chart has some pretty important information on it. It talks about requirements under 150,000 with the following FSCs that go to Fed bid. Our policy through our Mission Installation Contracting Command makes us do that. Okay, that's so if your FSCs like lab equipment 66, IT 70, 71, things like that, we will post on Fed bid. If it's a sole source requirement, we're not required to, but typically we do because we've got to post it somewhere anyway. Chuck.
Paul, if it's between, for our client's benefit, if it's between that 3,500 threshold and the 25,000, which kicks it up to FBO, if it's in between there, how do you recruit?
If it's Chuck's question was, if it's over $3,500 and less than 25, are we required to synopsize it at FBO? No, we're not, but we are required to compete it. And the easiest way to compete a requirement is typically through FBO, because we get, you know, quotes, and so we'll do a lot of requirements that are 10,000, 12,000, 15 that will be on Fed BizOps. If they're under $10,000, we can get 2 quotes. I can ask Chuck for a quote and Paula for a quote, and if they're both satisfactory as far as technical capabilities or whatever, we can go low bid without posting it. We don't really do a lot of those. Would be faster for us, but a lot of the stuff we get are over those dollar amounts. All right, capabilities briefings. From time to time, we do have contractors that come out to Dugway. Probably been a few of you that come out and meet with Jim and I, and you kind of let us know what you do, what you supply, what your services are, and we try to figure out how to disseminate that information to these customers. We also spend quite a bit of time talking exactly what we're talking about here with, is how to find out where the requirements are. Do we have some contractors that we'll reach out to for a requirement? Absolutely. Those are called suggested sources, because if we buy something for West Desert out there, like filters for an air handling system in a laboratory, we may know a couple companies we've bought from in the past, and that's part of market research, is historical purchases. And if we're buying that stuff on FedBid, we would list those as suggested sources. Doesn't mean they're going to get it, but it identifies those folks as being possible sources.
Let me add something also. For everyone's awareness, if you look at this bullet right here, due to national security and events surrounding us around the nation, Dugway has been required to beef up their security processes on the installation. One thing that is required is advanced notification. So if you are coming out to perform or coming out to visit, we need information to actually get you pre-screened. The one thing that's creating a lot of problems at Dugway, and I'm going to send this to Mike when he distributes the rest of this information. I talked to our chief of security at Dugway yesterday, and he wanted to provide a fact sheet that will help understand more fully what this means. We don't want to turn away contractors who have drivers or delivery individuals who have felonies on their arrest records. That's how serious this is getting for the installations around the nation. So with this, I'm not discouraging, but I want to be fully transparent here that there are some certain restrictions on who will be allowed on the installation and who will not. So Mike, I will get that information to you as soon as I can, so that is communicated as well. Again, we're not wanting to discourage, but we're wanting everyone to have full awareness that there are some restrictions on who can come on the installation. We don't want, for example, cement truck sitting at the gate with a driver who has no access to the base because of a restriction and the concrete hardening up inside the truck. So if you can help us out in that respect, we would certainly appreciate it. Thank you.
One more thing with that. There's a part 2 to that. We tell all the contractors, your team members that work for you, make sure they don't have arrest warrants. Every week, we probably arrest 5-7 people who are wanted someplace. And the sheriff's office comes and gets them. And they say, no, I know my people. And the same companies, we tell them that they say, I know my people, we've arrested them. And the one good example is there was a mover came out, 5 people. All of them were arrested. Or they took a guy and they let one guy drive the truck back. So they come move things.
That's good to know, Don.
The good news is that if you get on Dugway, you know you're clean.
There you go. That was the moving company? Interesting. By the way, we do have an ongoing contract to move furniture around the post for buildings that are coming and going. And finding a moving company took a lot of work. And sources, SOTs, looking on all of our sources for contractors, nothing. Nobody was interested. Nobody wanted to come out Dugway with the truck and move furniture. So I went on KSL to the services, typed in moving, and about 40 companies came up. And contacted a few of them, and we have, well, they're clean now, I guess. That company's moving furniture and tickled to have the contract. So, okay, this is kind of the slides that I was looking forward to talking about. Kind of dispel some rumors, answer some questions, I hope. Let's talk about market research. Whenever we have a requirement, we're just talking about the moving contract, we have to do market research. It's required in the FAR. It's extensive. We have to look at all kinds of sources, looking for potential vendors. Okay, Jim talked about business size, small business, or socioeconomic categories like the women-owned, the hub zone, etc. Those come into play. Typically, we look at places right off the bat like GSA Advantage. Everybody heard GSA contracts, pre-competed contracts that have pricing schedules for not only supplies but for labor. Okay, and the easiest way for us to look up those items is go on GSA Advantage. Or anybody tried GSA Advantage before, just to look on it? Website, GSA Advantage. Okay, and not only people in our office, but the credit card holders throughout Dugway go on GSA Advantage as kind of a first stop shop to see if they're on those schedules. Okay, Chess, that's an Army Chess IT website for goods and services.
Just a quick question. How do you make that determination to go GSA or to take it out? Is it the dollar threshold or is it how urgent?
I've got a slide coming up here that talks about that. So Army Chess is IT equipment. It's BPA contracts, blanket purchase contracts, where we can buy computer equipment, services, copiers, printers, computers, monitors, all that type of equipment. Google's pretty handy when you're doing market research. Some of the stuff we buy out west, I mean, you type it in there, and sometimes, honestly, when I type stuff into Google that these guys buy out there, I think I might have the FBI showing up, to ask, what are you doing here? What are you buying out there? But we've got to find stuff somewhere, because we're shopping. You know, when you guys go shopping for a truck or maybe a washer and dryer, you guys, you know, on the internet, you know, or you just roll down to RC Willey and start looking around. Okay, we do the same thing. Okay, source of SOTs, we've talked about that. If it's a sole source where our customer's telling us nobody else can provide this, we've got to have this exact piece of equipment, that's a sole source. And we post in our office, every sole source that we do is posted on FBO source of SOT. So we may be intending to buy only this certain item, but contractors can contact us and say, hey, I provide something just like that and it will work for you. And then we ask for specs, get the customers, go back and forth, and open it up for the quote. So sole source doesn't mean it's set in stone. Periodicals, magazines, we don't spend a lot of time going through catalogs, but our customers may. Previous contracts, if we bought something before, we can go back and look at the market research we did. How many people quoted, business sizes, socioeconomic stuff. We have an abstract document that if there were 5 bidders, lists them all. Okay, so we can find out what we did that worked before, so we don't have to do the same thing twice. Suggested sources. If a customer says we bought these cameras from Vision Research, we will make sure that Vision Research knows that we're going out for new cameras or camera service. And we do that through FedBid a lot of times. So, mandated sources. I don't know if everybody knows that Ability One is handicap, blind, etc. Federal prisons, they make things other than license plates. They make furniture and office equipment. Vendor presentations like the Jim talked about earlier with folks coming out. Trade shows, small business outreach events. That's market research. I meet people here that it might take a while, but we get quotes and we do business with them. Okay, FAR Part 8, question that we had earlier about when do we go to GSA? When do we go wherever? And when do we have to? Questions like that. This is straight out of the FAR. We just cut and pasted that right in there. FAR Part 8, you can go in there and read this. Tells us the pecking order of where we have to shop first. Okay, inventories of the requiring agencies. If we have a warehouse full of products and we can just buy those from that warehouse, then we don't even get the requirement at Dugway. Okay, or Dugway Contracting, I should say. Okay, so let's just go down here. Excess from other agencies. If people have leftover items that they're trying to get rid of, you know, there's ways we get our hands on those. Federal prison industries, we just talked about those. We're supposed to, in our market research activities as contracting specialists, that's everybody in my office, on everything we buy, have to go to Federal Prison Industry website and search and see if they have what we're buying. If they don't, we move on, but we document our file, right, Jim? And we move on. Okay, we don't do a lot of business with the Federal Prison Industries, but from time to time, we do go through them. Okay, blind, severely disabled, that's the Ability One. Same thing, we go to their website and we look. Okay, then wholesale supply services such as stock programs of GSA. So we've got down through those 3 or 4 locations, and now we're at GSA. So we go to GSA Advantage and we search. Okay. So dollar threshold doesn't really matter. Our folks will buy credit card purchases from GSA. We'll buy we'll probably do 100 contracts in our office with GSA this year, and and large contracts too. I think one of our biggest contracts with GSA right now is propane. Okay, there's a couple of contractors on GSA competed for our propane contract at Dugway, and we'll work through them. Right as part of that section in there, another pre-existing Army contract source is chess. I talked about IT. We're required to go through Army chess for those requirements. Hardware especially, services optional. Okay, and once again, vast majority of those chess and GSA requirements we advertise on Fed. And once we get down through that point, then it's open market. Open market is with anybody.
Well, just a quick question. Could you speak to the frequency at which you use Ability One programs? I have some Ability One programs around my area who have consistently been saying we get shut out and so on. Could you speak to that, how frequently you've used?
A pretty small number of contracts at Dugway. I don't know exactly how many we've done. A handful. Typically, where Dugway is and what we do, it's challenging, number one, to get out there. It limits the contractors that are interested in what we do, just being the location where we're at. I know everybody's sitting here thinking that there's contractors lined up down the street for everything we do, and there's not. We have to beat down contractors' door looking for people to come out and do some of these contracts, especially services. It's a small number of competitors, and we worked really hard at market research to find interested parties. So I don't know if that I can look into that specifically later, or you can send me an email and we'll get that information. Okay, I'm going to try to move on here. So typical sources. This is basically same as the previous slide, but a little bit more detail. Federal supply schedules, GSA. Blanket purchase agreements, that's chess. And then we go to open market. This is the bulk of what we do through our office. Other factors that may determine what we buy within those categories, sole source, direct awards, if we can do direct awards 8 through 8A programs, small business set-asides, women-owned set-asides, hub zone set-asides. Is there anybody hub zones in here? Hub zone, okay. And in order to set things aside, we have to have competition within those groups. Not a lot of hub zones. I had one person raise their hand, right? 2. Okay, so if I had a requirement that both of you were interested in, I could set it aside for hub zone. If I have one person, I can't. Okay, so we don't just go right out and hand stuff to different contractors. We still have to have competition within those categories. Okay. This slide's basic information about GSA if you're interested in setting up GSA contracts for your own company for not only your supplies and services. Just a slide up there to let you know you can go to GSA and either shop and see what's out there, etc. FBO, talked about that. When you register online, and look at opportunities on FBO. We're talking about Dugway stuff here today, obviously. But I believe Mike brought it up earlier, many locations, government-wide, that advertise on Dugway. I look on FBO for other folks and see what kind of contracts and solicitations are out there and how they're doing them. You can search by Utah, you can search by Dugway, you can look in Nevada, wherever. You can see what we've done in the past year out there, see what's just a ton of information. You can search by other codes like NAICS codes, FFCs, you can, lots of ways to search for opportunities. This is real important here. System for award management. Raise hands, folks that are signed up under SAM. Good, that's a good number. Keep current in your SAMs. This registration got to be done if you're going to do business with the government. On small credit card purchases, you don't need to, but if it's over $3,500 and there's a contract involved, you've got to go in here and set up, your DUNS and your cage, and there's no way we can award a contract unless you're in this system. And once in a while we get a contractor who will bid and quote, and we're right to that point, but they're not set up. And so what we do now is we check at the very start, as soon as we have contact with the contractor or a quote, we do the SAMs for everybody, make sure you're current and not on the excluded parties list. And so we don't have surprises at the end. And then right the minute before I award a contract, I make sure you're still current and okay in the SAM database. Wide area workflow. This is how we pay. And I get lots of compliments of how easy it is to work on this system. But once again, the only way we pay is electronically, and you got to be in the system to get paid. And when you go to the website, there's training on there. First couple of times you muddle through getting paid by the government. We're there to answer questions and hopefully get you through it. Next is going to be the reverse auctioning website. And I know I kind of rambled through a lot of this stuff with contracting. There's so much information. There's so many what ifs and how-tos. During the breaks and stuff, come ask me a question. We'll talk about your specific company, or if you have a question on where we go, how we do it, dollar thresholds, types of contracts, set-asides, come talk to me. All right, thanks.
What we'll do now is take about a 10-minute break, and then we'll come back, reconvene, and I'll introduce our FedBid representatives that are here to address us. Thank you.
The funny part of I don't want to be arrested again. I just wanted to extend my card. I'm with PTAC. Go ahead.
Are we ready to go?
Yeah, as soon as they take their seats and stuff, we're going to get started.
I don't know if we're going to reference this at all. I'm going to get it printed in the historical document. I'm just going to scan it.
Okay, so if we can grab our seats.
But you know what? I'll scan it. Yes, and let them know that.
Okay. I just want to point out, you're going to have more cracks at the Dugway folks. Okay, we're going to have a question and answer session, and we're going to have the one-on-ones at the end of the presentation. So I'm sorry I had to cut that a little bit short, but I want to try to keep everybody on schedule, so the ones that don't have questions when we finish, can head out if they want. But you will have another opportunity. So Hey, one other thing I want to mention, when we asked that question about hub zone, I thought I saw 3 or 4 hands go up. Can we have that again? How many companies in here are hub zone companies? Hold your hand up for a minute, please. Okay, 2. I thought there was a couple back here also. Okay, you guys, before you leave, if you got a business card with you, could you leave it with the Dugway personnel so they know about you? Okay. So, you want to introduce the FedBid folks? I left my glasses somewhere.
All right, everybody, welcome back. We do have the great opportunity to have FedBid represented here today. I do want to mention one other thing to you. We tried to get this trifle printed as a little tool for you that would assist in, again, some pointers information about Dugway, and LSI's had some troubles with the printing. We're going to get this included in the distribution of everything else today as well. So just so you know, we did have something else for you. One of the requirements that was, or encouragements, I should say, from our headquarters was to involve the SBA and FedBid if an opportunity arose in an open house. And much to my surprise, when our 2 representatives from FedBid showed up today, I had no idea they'd flown all the way from DC, or we would have certainly reached out much sooner. I think we contacted you Monday, and here they are. So I would like to introduce Holly Gautier. She's one of our senior lead agents. Say it again. Senior account leads, sorry. She's been with FedBid for 3 years. She began working in market operations, assisting sellers, and is currently an account operations working directly with buyers, and is the main POC for buyers at Dugway. So she's the one you certainly want to become familiar with. And Sarah Maffei, correct? Close enough? Sorry. Has been with FedBid for 1 year. So we'd like to introduce them, give them the opportunity to share with you the insights of what FedBid is. And as Paul identified, we use it quite a bit. So it will give you an opportunity to better understand it if you're not already in it. So I'll turn the time over to Holly and Sarah.
Good morning, I'm Holly with FedBid. How many of you here have heard of FedBid before today? Okay, great. All right, well, hopefully this will be informative for you all. And again, at the end of this, we'll be here. If you guys have any questions, feel free to come down and talk to us. So FedBid, I'm going to run through this pretty quickly, about 15 minutes. FedBid is where our buyers, such as the one at Dugway, will get a requirement come across their desk and they will post it to our marketplace. Sellers will register on our marketplace if they haven't done so already, and they'll go ahead and place a bid on that requirement if they think it is something that they can offer. And then after the close of the requirement, the buyers will take all of the bids that are submitted, will go through their due diligence, see who will get the award, and then the award is made. So when a buy is posted onto FedBid, we have multiple teams that are actually touching the buy. As soon as it's posted, we have our account operations team, which is the team myself and Sarah are under. It's kind of split up into 2 sections. The sections that we're under, we go out and travel, we do events like this and get FedBid out there to you and answer any questions. And then we also have the team back at HQ that's on their computer constantly. As soon as a requirement is posted, they're reviewing it. And if anything looks a little questionable, they'll be reaching out to the buyers at Dugway to just clarify some things. We are there also using customer service. We sit on site. I previously worked with the Department of the Navy with buyers out for the Fleet Logistics Centers, and I would sit on site there for about 2 weeks at San Diego, just drafting up requirements for them if needed, especially at the end of the fiscal year. Our market operations team, again, that's the team I started on. We would do a lot of market research on our end as soon as a requirement is posted. I would use SBA.gov, USA Spending to try to see when that requirement comes out if there are any companies that we could reach out to that would be able to provide a bid on this. We actually are also able to look into our system to see if any requirements like that were procured previously, and we can reach out to those sellers as well. We have our quality assurance department as well that tries to keep the marketplace a fair playing field, where they reach out to sellers to just confirm that they are complying with the buy terms that the buyer has set forth on each requirement. And we also have our client services team, which is basically our 1-800-FEDBID. If you ever have any questions, need assistance, you can call them up. We have people on the phones between 8:30 and 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time that you can just reach out to. Okay, so how it works for sellers. So you will register on FedBid. It is completely free for you to register. All you need to have in order to register is a DUNS number, a federal tax ID number, and a physical address. You can also input your cage code, because we do know it is required in order to work with the government. You can input that information in there as well. Once you're signed up, you can log in. You can actually, I'll show you later on, you can specify exactly what you want to see on the marketplace. But once you're logged in, you can see what is posted out there. Buyers will log in as well. They post a requirement, and once that requirement is posted, you can view it. If you have any questions on there, you can submit them through a system. They'll go to the buyer, and they will come back hopefully with answers from the customer that they were able to receive. And then if it is something that you are able to submit a quote on, you would submit a bid. The buy then closes. The buyer will make an award, and they can then reflect that award in the system, so you can see if you were awarded or another seller was awarded. You can find out that award information on there. So this is our numbers, and this is basic just through FedBid numbers. So small businesses were awarded 78% of the award dollars that went through FedBid. So $920 million actually went to small businesses, and again, this is through FedBid. Now, we have multiple organizations that use FedBid. It's not just Dugway. We have other MIG installations. Again, we have Navy, we have DOI. You're able to customize it so you can see all throughout the U.S. and just who is posting. You can reach out to multiple other locations as well. So again, it is completely free for all sellers to register on the marketplace. There's no out-of-pocket cost whatsoever to you. As previously stated, there is a 0 to 3% fee that is incorporated onto every requirement, and that is something that was negotiated with our contract with the government. So once a buy is posted, a seller, say it's for IT equipment, and you are willing to offer $10,000 for that requirement. So our 3% fee will be added on top. The total will then be $10,300, and the buyer will see that final FedBid price. So if you are chosen for the award, you will be awarded the full amount of the $10,300. You will then keep the price that you put in that you wanted, the $10,000, and then we will invoice you for the $300. So again, no out-of-pocket cost to you. It is something that is paid for by the buyer. So I'm going to go through real quick and just show you what you will see if you register as a seller, how you can customize your dashboard. Okay. So when a buy is posted to the marketplace, every buyer has to put in a product or service code that's associated with that requirement. If say you work with just IT equipment and you want to only see things that come under category 70, you can actually customize it so you are only getting notifications for anything that is posted with that product category. We also have service categories as well. So if you have any services that you can provide for the IT equipment, you can click that off as well. If you just want to see everything that comes out, you can just leave it all as is. Okay, and our email notifications. A lot of times sellers get bombarded with emails because we have people reaching out. Again, our market operations team will reach out to them directly. Then we have our client services team. So if you would like to not receive any emails at all, you can click that box off right up at the top. If you want to receive individual notices for each opportunity that comes out, you can do that as well, or you can sign up for a digest, so you will just get it twice a day and you can see everything that is posted on the marketplace. Again, you can have it set up so it's all the categories or just the categories that are relevant to your company. You can also have it set up, as you can see under here, the buyer organizations. If you only want to see things from Dugway, you can set it up in that fashion. If you want to see it from multiple other locations, you can just leave it, have them all checked off so you can see, again, all the orgs that are posting on FedBid. So this is what you're going to see. This is called our opportunities filter. So not sure if you can see right there on the top it says all opportunities. So that is everything that is posted on FedBid, currently live and on the marketplace that you could potentially submit a bid for. The tab that's right next to it says opportunities filter. So if you had gone through on the very first one where the product categories that we saw and you had customized it, that will just have those ones that you signed up for. So you can look through those and you can decide whether or not you like to submit a bid. That star that you can see next to the buy number, that notifies, that is basically that this is on your watch list. So that's a new feature that we've come up with as well. If it's something that you may want to submit a bid for but haven't fully decided yet, you can just click that you want it to be on your watch list and you can go through that, and it's basically just saving that opportunity so you can come back and look at it at a later time. But as you can see too, we do have, not only is it just simple products, simple services, there are BPAs that go through our marketplace, there are IDIQs, service requirements with optioneers, and those, the third to last one, anything with multiple base plus optioneers will say option in the beginning of it. Okay. Now say you picked one of those requirements and you decided you'd like to submit a bid for it. This is going to be the first page that you see. On the top is where you're going to put in your description of what you're offering. You can have something very basic as just paper for this requirement, and then a seller reference number, and that's basically just for your documentation purposes. However you categorize your things, you can just put in whatever number. You can say it's for Dugway, however you keep your records. In the bidding requirements, this is what you will see that the buyer had actually selected. So you can see seller attachments here. Buyers can request that you attach additional information within your bid with specifications for the product, maybe past performance sheets. This is where it's showing you that that's what they are requesting. This one was for an open market requirement. Again, we do GSA requirements, we have CHESS requirements, and that's why there's contract number, contract owner. That's where you can input that information as well. The delivery days, right now it's saying that the buyer requires delivery to be less than or equal to the specified delivery days that are there, so 30. If you cannot deliver within those 30 days, it'll jump back at you and bring you back to this to show you that that was a requirement. Sometimes it's listed as preferred, yes.
When you see the 30-day on there, I try to get my specialists to conscientiously think about their requirements. If they ask for 30 days, it should be realistic and not hurt competition. If you have to have it 30 days, put 30 days. But constantly I see, stuff that we get that's over 30 days. And I think, or, we didn't get it in the first 30 days. And I'm wondering if there are contractors out there that didn't bid because they knew they couldn't get that, 5,000 kW generated to us in 30 days. So they're going to get to the Q&A part, or that you can ask the specialist questions through the system. So whenever something happens that doesn't make sense, ask a question through FedBid, because our specialists are not as near as expert in what they're buying as you guys are, or their customer. So it helps us if you ask questions. Thanks.
So they do have an option of putting required or preferred, and you'll be able to see that when you're submitting your bid. For underneath there, you'll see exact match only. We've actually changed that terminology. It's brand name only to correspond with you all, because we know that is a requirement. If it's for a product specific to a manufacturer and a product number, then we recommend that purchase description. But we have all sorts of ones that you guys can see. And then buy attachments at the bottom. If a buyer has included anything, maybe like a statement of work, you can see that as well. You can download it, you can take a look at it, and further review whether or not you believe this is something you can submit a bid for. So this is the second page. Again, there's only 3 pages when you're submitting a bid. The second page, if you have any questions like he just said, right at the top there is a question mark button. You can submit any questions that you have about this procurement directly to the buyer. And then there's that watch by link as well that you can click on. So seller attachments, this is where you can attach any of the requirements that were asked for by the buyer. You can upload them right there. The line items, since this is an exact match only buy, there's no room for you to add a description of what you're offering. So that's definitely why we do recommend attaching anything that is showing what you're offering to them, to just confirm that you're offering the exact match, the specifications, things like that. If it was, say, a meter exceed buy, you need to meet the specifications listed, there will be a description box where you guys can actually put in information of what you are offering. So the unit price, right now this one is asking for 80 cases. We ask that you just put in the price of 1 case, because our system will actually automatically multiply it out for you, so you don't have to do that. Say you're willing to offer it at 1 price, you can put that in. That's going to be your initial price in the unit price. If you're willing to maybe fluctuate a little bit, put $1 or $2 less, you can put that in the stop auto rebid box, and it will automatically reduce it to that price if, say, this is a very competitive bid and there are other people competing as well. You can always change your bid price, lower it while the buy is open. You can do that automatically or by using that stop auto rebid box. If you see included in line item, that's say if all of the price is just in, if you included shipping within the copy paper line items, you can just say included in line item 1. So you don't have to enter in pricing for that. So this is what you'll see. It'll be a breakdown of what your price is. You put in the unit price, it'll show you the extended price, and it'll show you actually what the fee is that is included within your bid price. And then again, it'll show you the final Fed bid price, which is what the buyer is going to see on their end. Again, they are aware there's a fee, and this is just to be transparent with you so you can see what exactly the fee is that is associated with your bid. And if this looks all good to you, you're ready to submit, you can press the submit bid button that's in orange on the very end. Or if you're not ready to yet, you can always just save a draft of your bid and come back in at a later point in time and submit it. So once it's submitted, you'll see it in your active bids folder. You can keep an eye on it. Again, you can see exactly how many hours, minutes, seconds are left in the time of the buy. And you can see a status right next to it. You'll see in this one it says the status of lead. So that clearly means we had the most competitive price. If you see a status of lag, there's only 2 statuses you'll see, lead or lag. Lag clearly means you do not have the most competitive price at the time. That could be due to the target price that's listed by the buyer, or that maybe there is another seller that just has a more competitive price than you. And again, while the buy is open, you can rebid at any point in time, and that's what the blue button on the end is for. And if you can see at the tabs as well, as I said, you could save it as a draft. If you do, it'll go into that draft bids folder. If you decided you saw something on there, it's not something that you would be able to provide for, you can just click no bid and it'll be in your no bids. Anytime a buy then closes, it's going to go over into your bid results tab. From there, if we remain in lead, it's going to say lead pending selection. But what we like to say is even though you're in lead doesn't mean you automatically win, because the buyers then do have to do their technical evaluations and everything to determine whether or not you can get the award. But again, you would be able to see in the bid results tab, if it was selected and it wasn't you, you can then see who was selected at what price and the PO number. So getting registered is pretty simple. If you already have all that information I mentioned earlier, the DUNS number, federal tax ID, physical address, you just go to FedBid, you would click the register button right next to our orange login button, and you would register as a seller. You go ahead and enter in your DUNS number. It prompts that first because sometimes companies are already registered and maybe just a representative within that company needs to register themselves. Go in there and then you're going to enter out all your information. It's going to, as soon as you submit, it'll say that it will take up to 24 hours for it to go through. Usually it's much less than that. Our client services team, again our 1-800-FEDBID, is there all day going through our registrations. If it's something that you would like expedited, you can feel free to call that client services number and we can get that done for you very quickly. Again, there's our client services number. Here's my information as well as my colleague Sarah. If you guys have any questions for us, please feel free to come down at the end. We're happy to talk about it with you. And we also have business cards as well that we can pass out to you. Yes?
Sarah,
I'm Holly.
Oh, Holly, I'm sorry, you're Sarah, as always. Holly?
Yes.
I can see why this is such an advantage for the agency. They get the best price. How does the agency vet, or maybe you folks do it, how do they vet to make sure that the technical requirements are being met?
Well, that is something that is all done on the buyer side. All we do, we cannot evaluate bids on our end. We are just the ones doing some market research. We're helping out sellers submit their bids. We're confirming, our quality assurance team is confirming that they're able to comply with certain buy terms that are set forth by the buyer, say that they have listed that they must be an authorized reseller. We'll just double check. We'll be that second pair of eyes that'll send an email, just kind of automated one to the seller. If we have any feedback from them that seems a little questionable, we'll then just pass it along to the buyer because we have no hands on the award process. We're just for the pre-award helping. Yes.
The question is, has to do with if you go back a couple screens and then, well, I guess you don't have a screen here that shows results. Let's say there's, since it's a reverse auction, if an auction gets over and let's say we're buying an IBM server is what we're after, and it's got to have X amount of specs, you know, to satisfy the requirement, and that's the low bid. We're going to go ahead and award to that company. So we're since that's what we asked for and that's what was quoted, there's really no need to go to contractor number 2 in the pecking order. So, but we do time to time, actually quite a bit, we get quotes that are substituted items. So we ask for an IBM server and we get an HP server that was a lower price. And the vendor has the ability in their detail section to enter substitution and the specs for their item. They can also upload spec sheets and other documents that hopefully give the government a warm and fuzzy about that stuff's going to work. Once again, especially, and a lot of the times the customers are not subject matter experts like the vendor. Okay, you know what your product can do. You know it works. You sold a bunch. Just because we're asking for one thing, if your product is lower priced and you have documentation supporting it, we can buy it from you. And I constantly am on my crush list. If you don't get exactly what you asked for, reach out. Make sure your customer has enough information to okay the substituted quantity. We also get, from time to time, somebody who's a low bid who does not submit a technically acceptable item. And that's when we get questions or we get something back in the bid that wasn't what we asked for, we get all that information to the customer. And so they can start going back and forth, and by that time, we may have, we have the information from the contractor, and so we can get it going back and forth. And if their stuff works, great. If it doesn't, maybe bidder number 2 or 3 or so, so forth, will actually wind up getting it. And does that kind of explain it? So if you're low and you're not going to get the award, as a contracting officer and specialist, we better make darn sure that whoever is number 1 understands completely why they did not get the award or is not going to get it. The last thing we want is a protest. We want everybody to, basically handshake and understand what and why and where, so we get the best bit of equipment or service for the government, and keeps customers happy and contractors happy.
All right, so that's all we have for you today. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. That's pretty much what we had for the presentation today. We hope that the information that we've shared with you has been beneficial, that you've been able to take something away from this, something that's going to help you better serve your company and serve the federal government and the requirements that we have. Are there any general questions that anybody wants to ask right now? If not, we will certainly be hanging around to meet you one-on-one. But is there anything generally that anybody wants to ask at this point in time?
So before that, we're actually going to be handing out an evaluation form that both Dugway and us, we really want to use those to improve these outreach events, and Dugway is always interested in improving their product. So please fill out one of those before you leave. But this is your chance now to ask questions of the FedBid folks or the contracting folks at Dugway, their team, and then if you have something that is